As you guys probably know, I got a bunch of different cameras, both standard definition, high definition, broadcast, and consumer. In this little video, we're going to look at the 4 HD cameras that I have. 2 of them are HDV tape-based, one's a 3C CD and one's a single CMOS. I've got that HD disc-based camera we're going to record onto a disc, and one of my good 4K cameras. Let's check this out. Today for fun, I figured maybe I would make a little short high definition demonstration video using various cameras that I have. Now, the camera that I'm shooting this on obviously is not in the shot. We're not going to use that one. For all intents and purposes, it's identical to this one. This is the FDR AX33, and the camera that's recording this is the AX53 in HD mode. The other cameras that we're looking at right here is we'll go from the oldest to the newest on the shots here, with the very newest one being the one that this is being shot on right there. Out of this, the oldest, and these are all HD cameras. We're going to do a comparison between the HD cameras. I'm not going to tell you which camera is which. I'm going to let you guys guess. We'll just call it number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, etc. So first and foremost, this is the largest and the most expensive of all of the cameras. To put it into perspective of how big this thing really is, let's compare it to the other cameras. As you can see, this thing is massive. It's still a small camera. This is not like a Betacam size, but for a DV camera, this is actually quite big. It's a 3C CD. And this was what was first brought out and called a broadcastable camera. And many TV shows were made on this for run and gun. Tons of programs were shot on this camera, and many news organizations used them for many years when tape was still relevant. Tape's no longer relevant, so I don't think we see too many of these out in the field now. But for many years, this camera was. This was around $6,000 when it was new. Has a flip-up screen and a color viewfinder on the back. The nice thing about this flip-up screen is it's a trans-reflective screen, so you can actually see it in sunlight. The brighter it is outside, the more contrast this actually has. It works quite well. I still, however, prefer to use the real eyepiece. This one's 2004, which makes this camera 19 years old as of the time of this shooting. And I bought this camera when it first came out. This was the first HD camera that I bought in 2004 when it first was released. Serial number of this camera is 1047. So it's an early production. As I say, from the first shipment that came to Canada, I was there to buy this, standing at the camera store, handing over my credit card and racking up one of the more expensive cameras that I've owned over the years, other than the JVC GY DV500, which was a little bit more than this, and my Betacam, my original Betacam SP, which is long gone. It was a little more, and my EVW. Well, I bought my EVW 300 used, and I think it was close to what this one was, but this was a lot of money. The second oldest camera that we have here is this one. This is the HC3, the HDR HC3. This is also a tape-based using mini DV. It's a very small camera. It's a 4 megapixel CMOS sensor on this one. And the nice thing about this camera, well, besides it being relatively small, is if you're taking photographs, it has a real flash tube, a Xeon flash. So it can take some pretty good photographs. This is a 2006 vintage. The next one after that is this one here, which is what basically replaced this camera. This is essentially the same camera, but instead of it recording on tape, it records on, it's a hybrid camera. It has internal memory. It can record to a memory stick, which I have in here. I have a 4 gig memory stick. It has 8 gigs of internal memory, and of course it can also record direct to disk. Uses the mini DVD type discs. Can record to DVD-RW, DVD plus RW, DVD-R, DVD plus R, and DVD plus R dual layer. Of course, the -R, plus R, and plus R dual layer are write once. Plus RW and -RW you can erase and reuse them. The advantage to using the plus RW as opposed to -RW is that you don't need to finalize a disc in order to play it back, whereas -RW you got to finalize it, and then if you want to add any more you have to unfinalize it or erase it. You have to unfinalize it or format it. This one here you can just take the disc out, pop it into a computer, for example, to read it, or DVD player, and it will play. This camera is also a high definition camera in AVC HD, so it can record both normal standard definition DVD type recordings, and it can also record in HD, and it can do it at the same type of quality as these cameras, plus it can also use the higher resolution 1920 by 1080 mode. These cameras being HDV, they are 1440 by 1080 interlaced. This can work at either 1440 by 1080 interlaced or 1920 by 1080 interlaced, which is full HD. When I do this demo, I will be in the full HD mode. So this camera should look better than both of these two. Should. We'll find out. In terms of the timeline, I think this was 2008 was when this camera came out. We can verify by turning it on and going into, and then when I do the recording on this, I'm actually going to record to disk as opposed to the internal memory or the memory stick, even though my workflow would be faster if I recorded to memory stick. I'm going to do it to disk just for the hell of it, in the highest quality mode, which limits the disc to about 11 minutes. If I go into the menu, I just want to see when this camera, I think it's 2008. Yeah, go into the clock set, 2008 is when this one was released, because they always start the year when the camera was first released. So there we go. Got my clock and everything set again. So 2008, this little camera was released. And this was Sony's top of the line as far as the handycams went of this generation. These were out for a couple of years. And then some of the flash-based cameras that were just flash-based only, the disc went away pretty quick. They moved from memory stick to SD, where they could actually use memory stick or an SD card, and got rid of the disc. And tape, of course, was gone by then. Next up on my cameras is this one here. This is, I think it was 2013 or 2014. I forget. Let's just see. Put the battery on it and see what this one starts up with. I'll probably have to set the clock because it hasn't been powered up in a little while. So I'm sure that the internal battery has gone dead, which it has. And 2014. So this camera hit the market in 2014. And this was the first of the 4K cameras. It was one that Sony advertises as 4K for 2K because this camera hit the market at $2,000. 2014. It's a beautiful camera. I've got it mounted to a large tripod plate. I use this when I'm doing commercial work, which I still do a little bit of. And when I'm out shooting scenery and stuff, I've got the good Manfrotto professional tripod, and I've got this mounted to the camera, and it basically stays on this mount. So whenever I use this, when I haul out the huge tripod, which weighs a ton, and shoot with that. This one will operate at 1080i, 1080p, and 2160p at 24 or 30 frames. And it really looks good. 20 megapixel sensor on here. It will do stills at 20 megapixels. It's got full manual override. Right, you got a wheel over here. You can set the iris, gain, and shutter speed manually. And you can set your zoom. So you can either zoom or focus with the ring. You have to switch it, or use of course, the power zoom. I usually leave this on focus so that I can manually focus. Features a 12-time variable speed Zeiss lens, 62mm. And they do have polarizing filters and stuff for this camera. And again, I use this when I'm doing scenery stuff. I don't know that I'm going to use this one today for this demo because I don't think we'll see any image difference between that one and this one here, which I will be using. Just because I don't feel like dragging up the heavy tripod. I'm going to be carrying enough crap with me today when I shoot this, so no point in taking this one. I just figured I would show it off to you guys. But the one I will be using is the AX53. Well, the AX53 is what I'm shooting this with. This is the AX33, and that's the one I'm taking to the park. This one, if I go into the menu and set up, might help if I'm in the right setting. I think this one was 2016. Nope, 2015. This one was 2015. And the time's not even right. It's not 8:53, it's like 10:20. I guess I didn't set it right. Or the clock is not accurate. There. Anyway, we'll be shooting with this one in 1080p mode. I'll make sure it's set for that right now. We'll go into image settings, file format AVC HD, and it's set for 1080. I could go to the 50 megabit AVC HD S, which is an even higher quality format, but we'll try to keep things fair. I'll keep it at 28 megabits. 60p is what we're set at. One nice thing about this camera is also it will shoot 20 megapixel stills, like its bigger brother. 20 megapixel, this one's actually 20.6. The big difference between these two is the sensor size. This one's using I think it's a 4/3 size sensor, and this one's a 1-inch sensor. So the image sensor on this one is bigger, so low light performance off of this camera is superior to the smaller one. But as you can see, there's enough of a difference in size that, you know, if you're traveling, it's much nicer to carry something that's that size than something that's that size. If you're traveling around, that's kind of a bit of a hulk to carry around with you. And this thing, forget it. I've done it with cameras this big and bigger. Believe me, when you've got to babysit something that big all day when you're traveling, it's a pain in the butt. In fact, I'd much rather travel with something that's small like this, because I think this one delivers good enough quality, but it's small enough, you know, that it's thinner than the other cameras, and the quality of this one here should be every bit as good as anything else. This is my favorite one, of course, because the steady shot on this is just fantastic. It's the same as what we're recording on. The one I'm recording on has got a little longer lens. This is a 10 times versus a 20 times, but these both have the balanced stabilization, as you can see the lens here, and they do a really good job of keeping the video still. But anyway, that's a little rundown of what we're going to be using. I'm not going to be taking this one with me. We're going to be comparing these 4 cameras, and I'm going to go to the park. I think there's enough color out there now. We'll try to shoot the same thing using a tripod on all of them. We'll shoot the same thing on all 4 cameras, and we'll do a comparison. I won't tell you which one's which. I will just say a camera like 1, 2, 3, and 4. I won't tell you which one's which until the end. And at the end, I'll reveal which camera shot which. Anyway, let's go and do some shooting with these 4, and we will compare it. And it might surprise you which ones actually will look better. I don't know myself which one's going to look better. You would think that the 3 CCD is going to have more accurate color, but we will find out. One other thing I didn't mention was this little camera here. You probably already saw it, but like its older cousin, it has a Xeon flash too. So still photography on these little cameras, and that's why this was such a nice little travel camera, is that I mean, now you can get super quality photos on your phone, but these only shoot 4 megapixels, which are fine if you're just going to print snapshot size picture. But because it has a real flash with red eye reduction, so it like flashes 3 times and then it does the real flash, You don't get the red eyes like you do from a lot of cameras, because that's what the red eye reduction is for. Makes your pupils shrink. But because it's a real flash, it looks like a real camera. It looks like shooting with a DSLR with a real flash on it, unlike most of the cameras which just use ambient light. When you're in total darkness or a really dark situation, that makes a difference, because that flash throws. And I took this camera years ago, I think it was 2008. I took this camera to Disneyland with my kids when they were little. And we got some great pictures outside at night at the park, because it has a built-in flash. And it's only 4 megapixels, but really for printing like regular snapshot, that was perfectly acceptable for that quality. Anyway, but nothing compared to what something like this will do. Anyway, let's take these out and do some shooting and see how it looks. Now, one thing I will mention when I was shooting this was there was a huge difference in the quality through the eyepiece that I was using. 3 of the 4 cameras used a color LCD. I was not using the flip out screen, I was using the eyepiece. 3 of the 4 cameras used just an LCD. The AX33, like the AX53, uses a reflective liquid crystal on silicon type of viewfinder with a sequential red, green, and blue LED to illuminate it. So it's only showing one color at a time, kind of like a DLP. But the image quality, there's no comparison to the conventional color LCD. The AX100, which I did not use when I was shooting this, actually has an OLED eyepiece, which is the best viewfinder I have used yet on any camera. And that's on the AX100, and I think the AX700 has it as well. The 33 and 53 are close with its LCOS-based LED illuminated viewfinder, but the OLED is superior. The other cameras that had the LCD, the colors that I saw when I was shooting this, looked nothing like what came off the camera itself.
So now that we're all done with this little quick test, which cameras did you guess? Which one do you think was which? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Thanks for watching.